Hey, I'm Tom Vassell, and it's just you and me. Or maybe not. Two-player games. That's what we're talking about. This is our 12 Games of Christmas series, and we're talking about, in this particular video, about games for two people. Maybe it's you and a loved one, or you and a family member, or you and your best friend. These are games that we recommend you get for that, and put them on your Christmas list, or get them for somebody else for their Christmas. This particular video series is sponsored by Above Board TV. Above Board TV does extreme gaming. As if you go watch their YouTube channel, you'll see them jump out of an airplane while playing a game. And if you check the link in the description below, you will also see them playing a game, Too Many Bones, with sharks, live sharks. They asked me to do that, and I declined gracefully. So if you watch that video, comment on that video, because then you're entered into a contest. There's a contest for two people for a 3-day, 2-night trip to LA to record with the Above Board TV crew, and other winners are going to get different games from our list that we're doing right now. And so you definitely want to enter these contests. All you have to do is comment on that video, and then while you're there, check out their other videos on the website. All right. It's time for just two people. It's time for just us to get together and find out 12 wonderful games we can play. Here we go.
Let's start off today's list with Beer and Bread. I think this is a great game that mashes together so many of my favorite mechanisms: card drafting, multi-use cards, engine building, contract fulfillment, and balancing multiple paths of victory points. See, in Beer and Bread, you can bake bread and brew beer, and you earn points for doing both. But it's only the category that you have fewer points in that is going to be your score at the end of the game. I really like that, as you and your opponent are taking a card, passing it back and forth, and getting a new hand, taking one, passing it back, because you can spend every single card as either engine building for stronger abilities, or for instant resources now, or as the recipes for the beer and bread that you're trying to make. There's so much good going on in this game, a lot in a small box, so I absolutely recommend it. That's Beer and Bread.
Okay, the next two-player game is Boop. Yeah, now Boop is one of those that I saw going around a lot. I never actually played it until I got the Gen Con this year that was called Boop, which is the exact same game with a ghost cat. But Boop, it's really, I think the charm comes in the fact that it's so simple. You set it up, you set a little pillow, and you're booping different kittens off the bed, and you're trying to grow these kittens into cats. And you just set them down, and the other cats get scared and move off. It's got this strategy that's really, really fun. For some reason, I find myself like, okay, this is interesting. You can boop off the bed, you'll boop them next to other cats, and as far as rules-wise, it's very light, but there's a lot of really cool strategy in this. So really, if you look like the Boop, you can get the Halloween version and play it the exact same way as Boop. You just have ghost cats to add for variability later. But for a two-player game, this, if you're like me and you're like, Boop, doesn't this sound good? I mean, it's a silly name. It's cats on a bed. Doesn't sound good. Surprisingly, it's pretty fun. So I really enjoy this one, and it's Boop, or Boop. You scared? Don't be scared. It's Christmas.
Next up, I'm talking about Canopy. Canopy is a gorgeous game in which you're going to be drafting cards in order to develop your forest. You will have trees, you will have various animals that you are collecting, and you are trying to avoid negative synergies while making combinations that benefit you. Sometimes you'll take a look at a card, you'll put that card back down because you don't want it, and go on and draft from the next pile. So it has this very interesting drafting mechanism, and again, set collecting so that you can find the specific things you want. Various things you are scoring from, and a gorgeous look. Everything is chock full of fantastic blistering illustrations, a very lovely theme, and a very immersive gameplay experience with a nice amount of strategy and plenty to think about, but a quick time frame. So that is Canopy. If you love the outdoors, if you love nature, if you like drafting games that work with two, then this is one you want to check out.
All right, next up we have Jackal versus Hyde, and this is a two-player trick-taking game, and I think it's great that we're getting more two-player trick-taking games out there in the wild, and this is one where one player is playing as Jackal, the other player is playing as Hyde, and it's a bit of a tug-of-war style game where you're trying to get a marker across this kind of centralized board. It's always interesting to play a trick-taking game against a single solitary opponent because it's got a little bit of a different cadence to a larger multiplayer trick-taking game. There are some special powers that you can use that kind of change it a little bit from a standard trick-taker, but this is a really unique one that I really think would be of interest to trick-taking fans and two-player game fans. That's Jackal versus Hyde.
Next up on the list, we are discussing Caper Europe. In this one, you have a team of characters that is going to be traveling to a city around the world and engaging in some heists, and you are trying to be the one with the most panache, with the best heists, with the coolest gear, so that you can pull off these heists. What that entails is drafting cards, and with a very interesting drafting mechanism in which you have a hand of cards, you will keep perhaps one of these characters. The opponent will do the same, and then you give them your hand and you take theirs. So you'll see these characters that are not being picked sort of come back and forth, and you can start developing synergies. Once you do a round of that, then you switch over to equipping these characters with gear. And you'll give them some gear, various things, hooks and masks and all the usual tropey fun things that you'll find in this setting. And you continue doing this, splitting your effort across various locations in these cities, trying to come out ahead. The game comes with various cities, Paris, and you've got, I believe, London, a few different ones, and they changed the rules a little bit, so very fun, and just a gorgeous look, which again harkens back to this 1940s sort of style of illustration, which is just fantastic. This is a fun game. It is also one that has had various iterations before getting to Caper Europe, so it is incredibly well balanced and streamlined. They've already had a few times to develop this and polish it, and you really can tell. An absolutely lovely game, and personally one of my favorite games of all time, that is Caper Europe.
Our next game is Onitama. Now, Onitama is basically like chess, but with variable moves. You have cards that dictate special moves, just like think of the knight in chess. But these moves change from game to game. It's surprisingly simple and surprisingly complex at the same time. So for any of you who have friends that really love chess and are looking for a two-player variant, because you're tired of playing chess, Onitama would be the game for you.
Up next we have Sail, which is a two-player cooperative trick-taking game. That's a really unique combination, and it's done very successfully in this game, Sail. In this game, the idea is that you are trying to move a ship across a centralized board that is modular. You can change up what's there. There are going to be some obstacles on that board. But you are trying to get your ship from the starting space to the ending space while avoiding things like islands and kraken attacks, okay? And you do this by playing tricks. The winner of the trick is going to move the ship forward in their direction. Players sit opposite each other at the table. This unique kind of push and pull, limited communication, limited information game can really lead to some very exciting moments, and when you win, it feels like a true accomplishment. Sail is a very unique game, and it's one that I think a trick-taking fan would really want to try because it's very different than other ones out there. That is Sail.
Sky Team is a really interesting two-player game. Well, first of all, it's just a two-player game. So it's not scaled down, it's not a different kind of mode, anything like that. It really hones it on exactly what it wants to do, and that is help you land a plane successfully. So in this, you are a pilot and a co-pilot. You're rolling some dice and trying to communicate through those dice what you can do in your position in order to safely land this plane. I think that's what it does really well, is uses this limited communication in a way that does doesn't feel frustrating. You're trying to communicate something in your dice placement. You have your rolls and you need to do 4 different things, one with each of these dice, but they all have different little parameters and you need to communicate that to your partner here without saying anything. So it's a limited communication, but not in a frustrating way. I find that this is a very pleasing game. I think it comes with a lot of modules as well for variability. If it's a 2-player only game, cooperative, limited communication, challenging, and also really versatile. If you have somebody that likes all those things, have them check out Sky Team.
If you're looking for a 2-player game and you are already a fan of Splendor, this is a hands-down perfect choice. Splendor Duel is a ton of fun, and I think honestly I might like it more than the original. There's a very interactive board in the middle, and that is the way that you get your chips. There's also an introduced new resource called Pearls, and there's only 2 of them that exist on the whole board. And there's just a lot of interaction, a lot of choices to be made. So if I take something that really benefits me, it could be a super awesome action, but it might give you a little token that lets you take a little bit of a bonus at a different time in the game. And so that handing those bonuses back and forth and making those choices is very interactive, but in a good, fun 2-player game, I think it's well made and it is a fabulous choice.
For 2-player, Star Wars The Deck Building game is a great 2-player head-to-head game. One side's going to be the Empire, the other side's going to be the Rebellion. You have different starting decks, and you're basically trying to knock out the different bases of your opponents. And as your base gets destroyed, there's a catch-up mechanic that allows you to do cool different things, but it's all about recruiting different cards out of the line. Some cards are neutral cards, some cards are like Empire cards, and some cards are Rebel cards. And you can only recruit the cards of the faction that you are in the game. So it makes this an interesting dynamic. And you're also attacking the cards in the middle that are of your opponent's faction. And then the whole time we're trying to figure out how to knock out those bases. It's definitely a quick, fast 2-player game that you can deck build back and forth. If you enjoy something along those lines, like if you enjoy deck building, want a head-to-head 2-player game in that has that Star Wars theme, it's a lot of fun, and that is Star Wars The Deck Building game.
Now, if you like historical war themes, I got a game for y'all. This next game is Undaunted Battle of Britain. So the Battle for Britain, this is one of in a series of Undaunted. There's Undaunted Normandy, Undaunted Battle of North Africa. There's different ones. But while a lot of war games can feel stodgy and wow, look at all these charts, the Undaunted series is simple. It uses a mechanism called deck building. We have little decks of cards. We have a deck of card here, and you're adding cards to that to increase how many times that unit can go and or hit points. And it's a really unique mechanism. This one, the Battle for Britain, is, well, about the World War II defense of Britain from the German pilots coming in, and that has airplanes moving around because airplanes are always moving. And there's lots of airplane flight games in existence, but that flight system combined with Undaunted has made an exquisite, really good, light, but accessible, historic, strategic, tactical war game. I really enjoy this one, and like I said, I think you could do well getting any of the Undaunted series, but this particular one with the Battle of Britain, this is the newest one in that series, and I like airplanes and flying them around and trying to get behind the other person and shoot their tail. That's just interesting and fun for me, and if you think that sounds fun for you, you should definitely check that one out.
Okay, for our last 2-player game on the list, this is the quintessential when you're a kid and you were arguing and you're like, oh, so-and-so could beat so-and-so, like Spawn could totally get beat by Wolverine and all this, and you keep going back and forth and you can't kind of solve that. Spoiler alert, Wolverine would totally lose to Spawn. But anyway, this is where you can take people from different genres and go at it. And this is Unmatched. Unmatched is one of those that, I mean, it's one of the only games that you can sit there and you can play. You could have Raptors versus King Arthur. You could have Invisible Man versus Spider-Man. You could have T-Rex versus Bruce Lee. All of this can happen in 20 minutes, and you can solve it for all time, for everyone to know who would win this. And on top of all of that, the game looks great because the minis, I'm not a painter, my wife is, but these already come washed. And the minis look great. The sidekicks are great quality discs. And the whole system is easy to learn. You pretty much move and you can play an action and you keep going around. And there's a bit of differences with each of the characters, but they're minute. Once you know the system, you can go at it. And one thing we like to do is, because I have everything for Unmatched, and I've got a grid, and I've got everybody on there from 1 to 25 or whatever. I don't know how many there are. But they all have numbers, and you can roll a die to find out which one you're going to play. So you don't get AP, you don't always choose your favorite person, and you also get some very unique combinations that way. You roll, all of a sudden, hey, you're playing Buffy. And you roll over here, and you're playing whoever, Medusa. But it's really, really enjoyable to kind of get that, and the fact that you can play it and then you can run it back and do it again. So that is one of my favorite games, and that is the 2-player game Unmatched.
Thanks for watching another video in our series of the 12 Games of Christmas. A couple things before we go out. First of all, we've mentioned lots of different things that you can get here, and there's board games and all sorts of stuff, and we checked to make sure that these were available online. So we checked at the different online game stores like Game Nerds, we checked the publisher sites themselves, and we checked Amazon. And in fact, if they're available on Amazon, we have those links in the description. You just go right there and buy them. And if you do that, anything, when you buy there, or if you buy other stuff too, that helps us here at the Dice Tower. So keep that in mind. Also, don't forget our sponsor, Above Board TV. Go check out their channel. Go enter the contest by commenting on that video we mentioned. And as a side note, this contest is available only to those in the U.S. now for different reasons. But even if you're from all over the world, you can at least go check out their content and laugh as they play board games in fun and weird ways. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching these. I hope these lists are a help to you. Check out the other 9 videos. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell, and this is the 12 Games of Christmas of 2023 on the Dice Tower.